don't know what you're talking about, okay? If you can't get joy out of your Christian life and joy out of the Bible and enjoy the things of the Lord, you're not going to be able to fight, right?
Amen.
And if the enemy comes and you're not fighting, you know what's going to happen? They're going to capture you. So you know what happens? A lot of Christians are captured. That's why they're not doing anything for the Lord, because they're captured and they got their hands over their head and they're being directed out and they're all fenced in and they can't do nothing.
Amen.
Right? The preachers. One thing I thought about this week was that you don't realize we got to realize what we have in this book. This thing is far above all the education of the world like that, you know. I might listen to a doctor, Dr. Shiva, he knows all this, and he's got 4 degrees from MIT, and he's really smart, and from the world point of view, this guy's really educated. But he's not saved.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the Lord won't reveal himself to you except by the Father doing it. And education doesn't give you the knowledge of God.
Amen.
The Spirit of God shows it to you and shows it to you and shows it to you, right? Because your heart's right and you're like a little child and you humble yourself and God shows it to you. Had nothing to do with your education. And some of these guys work hard and they put a lot of work and they have a lot of time. And they know a lot of stuff. But if they're not born again, they're not going to go to heaven. They don't know God, right?
You're right.
And it doesn't mean that you're trying to downplay what they know. They know a whole lot more than I do. But they're not saved. But see, if you're saved, you have advantage over them because you have a book that far surpasses anything that's online, whatever, you know. Right? This is the key to knowledge.
Yes.
The internet's not the key to knowledge. This book is the key to knowledge. Now you might get out there and see some things out in the world and see, you see the mark here and you see what they're doing here. You see all these things that the Bible talks about. And that kind of gives you encouragement and hope. It shouldn't make you afraid. You're going to marry the Lord and you're going to go to see him who you're supposed to love and you're afraid.
Amen, bro.
Afraid of what? Afraid you weren't living right? And the thing is, the Bible says you walk by faith, right? Not by sight, right? So if you're walking by sight, you're going to be afraid because you can't see where you're going. Well, the thing is, you have to walk by sight. You have to walk by faith according to the Scriptures. Then you can see what you're doing, right?
Yes.
What happens a lot of times, young people or Christians or whatever, they're walking by this world and think they like it here. One day we're getting out here. The thing is, they got to wake up, right?
Yeah.
What was that? Romans 13. I just look at the verse 13:11. Yeah, it says, and now knowing the time that now is time to awake out of sleep. For now is salvation nearer than when we believe. Not what you believe, when you believe. In other words, time period. You believed over here in December 1978 when I got saved. Well, your salvation is nearer, like your body getting saved, is nearer than when you believed way back then, right? Yep. We're closer in time period, right?
Amen.
So he says, awake out of sleep, right? See, right, Gabriel? We're getting there. All the things your dad preached about, you say, okay, Dad, you said all that stuff, okay, whatever. We're getting there. We're getting right there. We're right up to the edge, like we're right on the tippy edge, We're going to make me afraid. No, we're not going to fall. We're going up.
Yes.
We're not going to fall down. We're going up.
Amen.
And brother, this is I heard Brother Gene Kim on YouTube. He's got some pretty good stuff. Where's I looking at me? See over in John, where did I mark that? Here it is, John 10. Talk about the porter. I never heard anybody talk about this before. He talked about the porter. And look at John 10 here. Preacher, I counted the privilege to be able to get up here and say something.
Amen,
Thank you, brother, again. And he says, look at John 10:1. He says, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth in by the door into the sheepfold, that climbeth up. You go to heaven, you go up, climbeth up. Some other way, the same as a thief and a robber. So the devil, he's a thief and a robber. Amen. It says, but he that entereth in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter openeth. I wonder who the porter is. He openeth what? Open the door. Up there in heaven, John was there, and they opened the door, right? So the porter opens the door, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his name, the sheep by name, and leadeth them out, right? We're going out, right? See? Yeah. Calleth by name, like you have animals and you call them by name, right? Your pets, you call them by name, your cats and dogs, right? Well, the Lord calls by name. And remember, Mary was in the garden, and the Lord called her name, and he knew it, right? Right. And he's going to talk with us, right? The trumpet talked with us, and you can hear his name. And you can hear your name, he's going to call you, and you're going to say, oh, that's the Lord.
Amen.
Like you ever been somewhere, and maybe Mrs. Parks hears Cliff talking to somebody over in Lowe's in another aisle. So, oh, that's my husband, he's over there, right? She can't see him, but she can hear his voice. She knows his voice, right? Everybody has a distinct voice, and the Lord's voice is gracious and kind and sweet, right? Right? In Song of Solomon, talk about his voice, how lovely it is, right? Isn't it neat? And see, his voice ain't like anybody else's voice, right? So when you open this book, this thing ain't like anybody else's voice, is it? Right? Isn't that good? I heard somebody said that, this thing doesn't read like any other book.
Right.
It has a voice all different all by itself.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And, and so we get used to hearing the King James Bible, but you got to realize this is a holy thing right here. and it's alive. And so when I got up this morning and read my Bible a little bit, the Lord directed me over to Thessalonians, and I was reading Revelation, I was reading 1 John, and it covered the same things he covered. Now, there's a lot of pages in here. How do you do that? Just when the Lord tells you to get out of bed, say you're thinking about something, the Lord says, go read about this. And I'm trying to read in 1 John. Then the Lord shows me about, if you have the hope of him coming, you're going to be like him. It's a purifying hope. And I'm talking over Thessalonians, over Revelation. And then over it talks about, you get a crown in 1 Timothy 4, And if you don't love him, you're not get that crown. Right. Do you want to miss the crown? No. So you need to love his appearing. Yep. And I appreciate our disappearing too, right? Whatever, And the fact that we're going to dissolve, right? Whatever. But I thought it was pretty good here that the porter openeth. Maybe the Lord is the transporter, and you got the porter open the door, but the Lord's going to transport us, right? And you got a porter, but then you got a transporter. It's like somebody who moves you from here to there, right? Amen. So we're going to go from here to there. Yes. Just like in Job, you saw that in Job 37, right? Where 37 is a prime number. 3 times 37 is 111, huh? There's got to be something significant to that, right? I heard the man say that water at a certain temperature can be liquid, gas, and solid all at the same time. That's the Godhead. Just at a certain temperature, it has all 3 states all at one time. Wow. That's pretty neat. Yeah, it is. And see, the thing is, I like to hear this kind of stuff when I write it. I need to write that down. And see, because God is the one who designed the whole creation, right? Amen. And so his fingerprint's on everything, right? He touches everything. He's everywhere, right? And so everything God does, you see his fingerprint on the trees and on the plants and on the sky and on everything, right, And in this book, right? Right, brother? And so you need to have little things when you go out and you be like a detective. You search out the proof of God in the scriptures like that, I like over there where was that Lord's talking to, who was that? And he says, know ye not that I am in the Father, Father in me, He says, I am he that speaketh to thee, whatever, In other words, the Father was talking to, what was that? Philip, yeah. He says, in other words, Jesus is there, but then also he's talking to Philip, but it says, I'm talking to you now, like the Father was talking to Philip inside of Jesus. You're right. It's like, what? He says, yeah, I'm talking to you right now. It's like, he's inside Jesus who's talking to Philip. He says, no, you're not me, I'm talking to you now. It's like, oh, wow. You need to go home and look that up. Amen. Well, those just little silly things don't matter. No, those are the things that give you joy, right? Yeah. And give you encouragement, and that gives you light and gives you hope and kind of gives you strength like that and gives you excitement about things of the Lord, right? All that stuff should be exciting to you. Yes. And when it is, it gives you joy and it gives you something to talk about because, we're hid in Christ and our life is in Christ, right? And this stuff's supposed to hide. We're supposed to hide His word in our heart, right? It's supposed to give us a song and give us joy, right? But see, if when you're laying in bed, the Lord nudges you and tells you to get out of bed, if you don't get out of bed and never do what He says and open the book, you're not going to, you and Him aren't going to sup together, right? Right? He wants to sup together with you, brother. He show you things that the preacher don't know. Well, how can I do it? Well, He'll show you things that that you need. Right. You say, oh, wow, look at that verse. I've never seen that verse before. It's like, oh, that's pretty good. Amen. But you have to listen to that still small voice. Amen. Because He'll talk with you, right? Well, that's just silly. No, He talks with you. If I can take a little box and put it on the side of my head and somebody talk to me, you don't think God can talk to you? Right, Brother Gabriel, right? All this, internet technical jazz, whatever, right, And just like in the Bible, like, how in the book of Acts, when they're leaving jail, he walks to the door and doors open up all by themselves, whatever, boop, Well, you could go walk Kroger's, boop, they open up all by themselves, right? That was in there. That's old technology, man. Get with it, right? Amen. Right? But, and one thing, too, don't let anybody take this book away from you. You're right. What do you mean? I still use King James Bible. I read it on my cell phone. Don't let anybody take this book away from you. You're right. Because if you have a phone, they can mess with all the stuff you get on the internet, right? And Sam Gibbs says, isn't God pretty high-tech? So what God does, God gives you a book. Yeah. God's more high-tech than a cell phone. That's archaic. Amen. God has a book in heaven, right? Yeah. Because you have something digital out there in the ether or whatever, that can be all evaporated and dissolved and gone, right? The devil wants that, right? See? Put all your stuff online, then all of a sudden it's gone. It's like, well, if you got it here. Right. So you can open up and you can say, well, let's say it's the Lord, right? See? Amen. Somebody can mess with it up there and you didn't know that, right? Somebody can change the verses on the internet, can't they? Yep. If you don't have a book to check it, how do you know? You don't know if it's right. Amen. They can rewrite it. And what's happening is they're taking these books out of people's hands. They had churches, people using their iPad instead, That's maybe good for just a time or two, whatever. But don't anybody take the book,
Amen.
right? And preacher's going to preach out of the book out of us. And, Jesus and the Lord talked about a book he wrote, right? But it's kind of interesting that, remember, Moses had the table of stone, and the new Bible's trying to make it tablets, right, Like a Kindle, a tablet, or whatever, He had a table. And if you have a table, what do you do at a table? You eat. It talks about table of your heart, and that's where you have a feast. You open that table, and you eat. Right? Isn't that pretty neat?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So that's a little encouragement. Just the Lord's coming back,
Amen.
and don't be afraid. Just get ready. And, when you got married, you weren't afraid of your husband, where he's like, oh, there he is. Hold on, what am I going to do? That's crazy, right?
Amen.
So what's wrong with you, man? It's like, something's not right. You live in this world, right? In other words, you want to keep on being single and do what you want. You don't want to marry him, right?
Oh, boy.
And the Lord is better than any husband, any man, anybody you ever met. He's more kind than anybody.
You're right.
It's like, well, this boy, he's so cute. No. The Lord's better than 10,000, right?
Amen.
Read Song of Solomon. He's best,
Yeah.
right? And he's the person you should tell your friends about. He's the greatest.
Amen.
You love him, and then he'll love you, and it'll be good.
Yeah.
Amen.